Namyo Renge Kyo, Namyo Renge Kyo, Namyo Renge Kyo. Hello, welcome to Sun Lotus Recovery, where Western science meets Buddhist Dharma to create innovative, unique solutions to addiction disorders. This morning, I'd like to talk to you about, I put some videos up earlier about them practice Gongyo Shodai, chanting and recitation of the Lotus Sutra. So this morning, I'd like to talk about what that actually is. We've got a book here, I called it Gongyo. And in that is a translation, an explanation of what it is, and a translation of the actual sutra from the Chinese with Japanese syntax into English, i.e. in the beginning I say Niji Seson Ju San Mai. Niji Seson Ju San Mai. So Niji Seson Ju San Mai. What is Niji Seson Ju San Mai? Niji Seson Ju San Mai Anjo Niki Go Shadios Jobo Chie Jin Jin Mudio Go Chie Monangi Nanyu Isai Shomon Yagashi Budshofu no Shi. And that translates as, at this time, the world-honored one serenely arose from his meditation and addressed Shariputra. The wisdom of all Buddhas is infinitely profound and immeasurable. The portal to this wisdom is difficult to understand and difficult to enter. Neither men of learning nor men of realization are able to comprehend it. And then I go into a little bit more detail about what that actually means to us in 2026. So this morning, and if you want to know, here it is. You can find it on the link on our front page of the channel. It'll go up there. I think there's a Google link to my Amazon page, my Amazon authors page. All my books are there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Gongyo. I'm going to read from Gongyo because I think we've done a really good description here. This book is about daily practice called Gongyo. So I hope those who are already doing Gongyo will get some understanding and inspiration from what I'm going to write. And those who have never done Gongyo will get some idea of the purpose in our doing what sounds to be something very difficult indeed. But actually, once you've got into the rhythm of it, it becomes a joy. Which is true. I think learning Gongyo is rather like learning to ride a bicycle. To begin with, you find it very difficult, but suddenly everything seems to click into place. And if you really persevere, if you are struggling to learn Gongyo now, or if you are looking at the Gongyo book and thinking, how am I ever going to learn this? Or if you're thinking, gosh, I don't think I can ever do this practice of Buddhism, if I have to learn a thing like that, what I promise you is that has happened to everyone else. And what everyone else can promise you is that really, eventually, you reach a point after perhaps 2 months of doing it slowly and steadily, that suddenly something just seems to click in your life and you find yourself in rhythm. And it's exactly like learning to ride a bicycle. In Nichiren Daishonin's Gosho, writing to his to one of his believers, his members, reply to Lady Nichinyo: never seek this Gohonzon outside yourself. The Gohonzon exists in the mortal flesh of us ordinary people who embrace the Lotus Sutra and chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. To be endowed with the 10 worlds means that all the 10 worlds, without exception, are contained in the one world of Buddhahood. Only with faith can one enter Buddhahood. Faith in Buddhism is action or doing. That is to say, action and practice exactly as the Buddha taught. And the practice of Gongyo is exactly what the Buddha taught us to do. So if we do Gongyo day in, day out, and combine this with the other two practices of teaching others and study, we will in this lifetime attain enlightenment or Buddhahood. The very practice of Gongyo is to open gradually the doors to your Buddha nature. And when Nichiren Daishonin said, never seek this Gohonzon outside yourself, the Gohonzon exists within the mortal flesh of us ordinary people who embrace the Lotus Sutra and chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. It means that when you practice to the Gohonzon, what you're in fact doing is entering it, or if you like, fusing your life with it. Or in other words, you are realizing that your life is the Gohonzon, and the Gohonzon that was inscribed by Nichiren Daishonin is a mirror of your life itself. The purpose of this practice, called Gongyo, is to enter the Gohonzon, and that over the months and years of doing it, you gradually open the doors of your life and realize that you also, just as the Buddha promised, possess the Buddha state, the highest state of human life, enlightenment. So to achieve this state of life, we have to purify our life and put it in balance and rhythm. Looking at it perhaps from a shallower point of view, the purpose of our daily Gongyo, our daily practice, is to put our life in perfect balance and rhythm. In other words, to purify it. Some people say practicing Gongyo is like digging a pipeline down through your life to its depths, where the Buddhahood, the Buddha state, the Buddha nature lies. When you're learning Gongyo and struggling with it every day and allowing precious time in order to learn it, you're digging that pipeline down gradually through all the layers of your life until finally you hit the Buddha state. And once you do that, then it's necessary to keep the pipeline open. That's what the daily practice is all about, to purify your life every day so that the pipeline to Buddhahood is pure and clean, and the great qualities of Buddhahood, that is compassion, wisdom and life force, courage, can actually flow freely and cleanly through your life. Having done that practice of Gongyo, you then carry out the fundamental practice of this teaching, which is chanting Daimoku, or Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, over and over again. By the time you are chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, your life is perfectly in balance, perfectly purified, and therefore your great prayers as you chant Daimoku will propel themselves outwards and inwards with maximum effect. The literal meaning of Gongyo is this. The Gyo of Gongyo means practice, and the Gon of Gongyo means assiduous, or it could mean eager or endeavoring strongly or striving hard. All these meanings are contained in the character Gong. So Gongyo or Gongyo is assiduous practice. That is practice involving endeavor, or eager and enthusiastic practice. In a way, Gongyo means let's go, or go, go, go. Gongyo and its formula are entirely based on the law of cause and effect. And through that great effort to do this assiduous practice and your determination to perfect it, you are making an incredibly pure cause, which will bring about an incredibly pure effect or benefit into your life. Cause and effect are exactly related to each other. You do something great and something great will occur in return to you. In the same way, if you do something destructive, then something destructive will occur to you. Gongyo is a very pure cause to make. You give up your time. Maybe you have to get up an hour earlier in the morning, which I do, to do it, and that takes effort, but it brings incredible reward. Nothing is free in this life. We have to work for everything. If one is going to win or play golf well or tennis or be an expert in any particular field of science or the arts, you have to work hard at it. If you want to attain the highest state of human life and be happy, then you have to work at it, and that work is to do Gongyo and chant Daimoku every day, just as the Buddha taught. How did all this begin? How was this practice of Gongyo conjured up in the wisdom of the Buddha? It started, of course, with the Buddha, Nichiren Daishonin himself. Nichiren Daishonin said that we should first of all read, recite, and chant 2 chapters of the Lotus Sutra, which were the key chapters in which the meaning of the whole of that sutra was contained. They are the Hobenpon, chapter 2, expedient means, and the Juryo-hon, chapter 16, the lifespan of the thus come one, part of which we recite in Gongyo. Translation is in here. These are the key words of the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren Daishonin said, if you recite the Hobenpon and the Juryo-hon, it's as if you are reciting all 28 chapters of the Lotus Sutra, because the ultimate meaning is all contained in those 2 chapters. And since the Lotus Sutra embraces and contains all the other sutras that have ever been taught in Buddhism, all 84,000 of them, so to recite the Hobenpon and Juryo-hon chapters of the Lotus Sutra is to recite all the sutras of all the Buddhas in the universe. Wow. To recite those 2 chapters is embracing in your life all the teachings of all the Buddhas since time began. Nichiren Daishonin also said that the basic practice is chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo over and over again to your heart's content. So with these 2 guidelines from Nichiren Daishonin round about the 13th or 14th century, no one exactly knows the date, the high priest of Nichiren Shoshu decided to establish a firm practice of Gongyo, which the priests of the head temple would carry out daily, and this involved moving in procession from temple to temple, with the precincts of the head temple itself, and reciting the various prayers of Gongyo. And to this day we do 5 prayers in the morning and 3 in the evening. Each of these prayers was carried out in a different temple. After they completed one prayer, they would move on to the next temple to complete the next one, and each temple had some significant relationship with the prayer itself. That is how Gongyo began, conducted only by the priests. Lay people didn't do Gongyo. In those days, in the early days of Nichiren Shoshu, the action was entirely left to the priests, and the lay people's task was to support the priests. Certainly the lay people would chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and sometimes they would recite the sutra, because they knew Nichiren Daishonin said they should, but there was no formal practice that had been devised in the wisdom of the high priests, carried out by the lay people. It wasn't, in fact, until after World War II, when religion was freed or liberated in Japan and people were permitted to practice as they please, that the head of the lay society actually asked permission for the high priest for the lay people to now actually practice Gongyo themselves in the same way, exactly as the priests. The reason for that is that a new phase of the great movement for world peace, or Kozen Rufu, began at that time, and the lay people's responsibility for spreading the Dharma became extremely important. Therefore, they needed the life force, wisdom, and compassion to carry out this great movement into the 21st century and beyond. So that's a little brief introduction to Gongyo, our daily practice in Sun Lotus Recovery or Nichiren Shoshu Buddhism. It was the basis of my recovery, and I've been practicing now over 30 years, 21 of those in recovery. It took me quite a long time to actually overcome my addiction in the beginning. I didn't even know I had a problem to start with. But I will talk about that in later videos, or if you want to ask me questions, please feel free to ask at any time. just add comments below, and I'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to finish with what we call a Sancho. And if you want to know more about Gongyo, as I said, everything is here in the book Gongyo. So really, I'm giving you everything you need to know about your recovery. You've got the Sun Lotus Handbook, which I will briefly go into in the video. Go through the whole program, all the 12 sessions and the 3 phases. I'll briefly get into that in another video soon. And the actual daily practice, first of all, chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is most important. That you can start straight away. I started with just a blank wall, and I just started to chant to a blank wall. I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was that after I chanted 20, 30 minutes, I felt better. And I still do. So after studying, of course, you get more into it and have a deeper understanding through practice and study of actually is what you're doing. And this has been the spiritual basis of my recovery. Okay, I'm going to do what we call Sancho, and then I'll stop the video. Thank you for watching my video, and please comment below. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo.